Yes, guys, what's happening? And welcome back to the channel and welcome to the weekend preview show. And as always, I'm joined by George and mate. It's another game week 13 of the Premier League. We're motoring through. So some big games this weekend. Obviously, probably the biggest one, Chelsea against Manchester United. We're not going to cover that in this show. We're going to do an in-depth preview with predicted lineups, etc. tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned for further information on that. But Manchester City against West Ham is probably the other big game of the weekend. Two teams in the top four banging form. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. But yeah, guys, before we get into it, let's make sure that we're obviously smashing a like on the video, subscribing to the channel if you're new. That's really important. It really helps us. We're creeping towards 200 subscribers, so every additional subscriber helps. And don't forget to get involved in the comments as well. You know, we're here to hear your thoughts, etc. But George, I'm just going to bring up the Premier League table very briefly, just so we can see what the state of play is heading into this weekend's fixtures. Obviously, for Chelsea fans, it's very nice reading here. Right, there it is. So, obviously, we're sitting top of the table, 3 points ahead of Manchester City. Liverpool and West Ham rounding out the top four, with Arsenal, Wolves and Spurs 5th, 6th, 7th. And great to see Man United down in 8th. And then, obviously, relegation zone. We've got Newcastle bottom, with Norwich and Burnley making up the bottom three. George, fixtures this weekend. Obviously, as I touched on, a couple of good ones. Let's kick it off. Manchester City versus West Ham. And that is obviously another massive game on Sunday. How do you see this one going? Both teams obviously in really good form. Manchester City 3 points off the top in second place. 4 wins in their last 5. West Ham a further 3 points behind in 4th, also 4 wins in their last 5. Their only defeat last time out was the 1-0 loss to Wolves at Molineux. Both have had European football. Manchester City beating PSG last night, and I think West Ham have beaten Rapid Vienna this evening in the Europa League. How do you see this one going? Should be a tasty affair at the Etihad.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it, and I think Manchester City are susceptible to slip-ups. We saw it against Crystal Palace. I think it's fair to say that Chelsea are the most consistent team in the Premier League. We've said before on the channel, you know, we're not biased. We know that we don't play the most attractive football, when by no means, and I think that award probably does go to Liverpool, Manchester City. It's always going to be difficult against Manchester City because you know the possession stats are always going to be in their favour. So it's more of a question of, will West Ham take the chances that will be limited? I really do think that even in the games they've lost this season, Manchester City, the chances have been limited for the other side. It's just whether you're clinical or not. But they are susceptible at the back. I still think they're quite weak in that area. And they do have lapses of concentration now. Whether they can deal with Antonio, I don't know. But I'm really looking forward to this fixture because it's going to be a tasty affair. And Manchester City can't afford to drop too many more points, because I can't see Chelsea losing anytime soon. I mean, that might get a couple of days' time and then end up losing to Manchester United, but we don't know. 2 teams banging form, but West Ham seem to be the big killers this season. Obviously beat Liverpool earlier on in the season. So, I'm really looking forward to it. I couldn't call it. Probably just sway towards Manchester City, but I think there could be something for West Ham to take out of this game.
I mean, do you think City's obviously injury list, no Kevin De Bruyne, no Phil Foden, no Jack Grealish? Obviously, they didn't feature against PSG last night. Obviously, not heard from Pep in his press conference, which will obviously come tomorrow lunchtime. Unsure of whether any of those will be available to play on the weekend. But, I mean, George, is that a big loss to them to be without those 3 players? I mean, they've kind of shown against PSG last night that they've obviously got more than enough quality in that squad to mean that they don't really miss those 3 players, which is quite a remarkable thing to say.
Yeah, it's exactly that, isn't it? There's other than Chelsea, they've got the strongest squad for sure, and that showed last night. Missing those players, I mean, I'm not too worried about Grealish. I don't think they miss him too much, but you know my thoughts on that. But Phil Foden's definitely the one that they'll miss most, I think, who's in terms of current form the one who lights it up, the most attacking player in that final third. And I mean, they've got a great squad. There's no doubt about that. It's just, I don't know. I think it's always difficult to defend a title. It always is harder second time around. And for me, just looking at history, I think it tends to be someone else that wins it every time, someone new. So I think if they were to drop points against West Ham, I'm not saying that. Obviously, I'm not saying they're out of the title race. But what I would say is, I can see that being a regular occurrence for Manchester City this season. I don't see them being as dominant as they have been in previous years, which is surprising considering they've added quality to the already completed Pep Guardiola squad that got them to the Champions League final. It seems odd to say that, but look, Manchester City, they can prove me wrong all day. They just beat Paris Saint-Germain from being 1-0 down. So who knows?
And just a couple of things on City before we move on to West Ham. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk over the summer about Harry Kane coming in, etc. I mean, do you think ultimately Manchester City not signing an out-and-out number 9 is going to be an issue across the whole season? Because it hasn't really looked like much of a problem so far, and it certainly wasn't a problem last season. But do you think when it gets kind of tight and you need someone to kind of, you might get 1 or 2 chances in a massive game, and perhaps the guys that are playing in those front 3 positions might not have the finishing capability of a out-and-out number 9? Do you think that could make them fall short ultimately?
Me personally, I think it does. I just think sometimes when they're lacking that final clinical touch that's needed to get a scruffy goal in a game that they either dominate or don't dominate, they had that in Sergio Aguero. He was perfect at that. Would play a 6 out of 10 type of performance, but still score. And that's sometimes what you need. Now, Pep Guardiola gets very sick of this question because, as we know, and actually from watching Chelsea a lot without Lukaku, I've slightly started to sway towards the fact that a number 9 is not as important for the way Chelsea and Manchester City play, because it can be interchangeable up there. But I think when the margins are finest, particularly this season, where I think it really is going to be the closest race we've seen in the Premier League, I really do think sometimes you need those world-class number 9s who are actual born strikers who can just put in a goal. Because as much as you've got that attacking talent of Grealish, Foden, everyone else, I still wouldn't back them as much as Sergio Aguero 1-on-1 in a goal situation. So, I mean, surely Kane would only add quality to that position. So I think in hindsight, they probably should have got him.
I mean, this season, I think it's going to be fine margins for sure. There's not going to be a lot in it in the title race between, obviously, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City. It's going to come down to very fine margins, as I said, and that could be one of the fine margins. But again, they've demonstrated that this kind of team, the way Pep set it up, doesn't necessarily need that striker. So we'll have to wait and see. But just last thing on City, George, do you think that the Champions League is more of a priority than the Premier League this year for them?
Yeah, for me, I mean, Pep won't say it, but it is 100%. Everyone at Manchester City knows it. The fans want it. We've been there, 2008. We know how much it hurt for a few years, and it took us quite a long time to recover and get to another final. I have always said that if they get there a second time around, they won't make the same mistake, and I think they will win it if they get to another final, which will happen. I have no doubts now. I mean, I know we give them banter and we say, we sing Champions of Europe, you'll never win that and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think that squad is too good not to win it eventually, even if it comes in very strange circumstances when maybe Pep Guardiola is not there. But I think eventually they will win it. It has to be the focus for them because it's the only one missing, and it's what Pep was brought in to do. And I do personally think it's a failure if they don't win the Champions League when Pep Guardiola is there. I'm sorry, but the amount of money they've spent, it's like what people criticize Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for but Pep Guardiola, yes, he's an unbelievable manager, but if you can't win a Champions League with that squad, when can you?
It's tough to win Champions League. It really is. But I mean, I would say that the Champions League, I'd agree with you, it probably is more of a priority than the league is, but that doesn't mean they're going to discard the league. But yeah, I think the league is definitely not as important as the Champions League for Manchester City this year. But George, moving on to West Ham, obviously doing very well, top 4. Coming to the end of November, they would have taken your hand off if that was given to them at the start of the season. How much of an issue do you think having played tonight away in Austria with the travel Europa League game away from home on the Thursday is going to make to them playing on the Sunday? I mean, I'm not sure which players have featured. I'm sure it's a mixture of kind of fringe players and some first teamers. Do you think that's going to be a disadvantage to them?
I think it's always a slight disadvantage playing on the Thursday night, particularly away from home. But this season's a test of character for West Ham, because these would be the typical games that they wouldn't expect to get any results out of. And so far, I mean, against Liverpool, weren't expected the same, but got a result. And if they can get a result against the big boys, I know ultimately it comes down to those games against the lesser teams that ultimately will decide whether they get that next step and push for that top 4 spot, which is possible. I think they've got the quality to be there, but psychologically, similar situation to Tottenham Hotspur, can they do it when it matters? And I think to be in that top 4 conversation, you do need to be picking up points against the teams in and around those positions. So they need to take this game seriously. They can't roll over and just, accept that Manchester City should, win this game. I think that's where psychologically things have to change for them to be able to make that step up this season.
And with the likes of, Fornals, Jared Bowen, Mikel Antonio have all been in really good form this season. Do you think they've got enough in that attacking area to cause the Manchester City backline a few problems? Obviously, Ruben Diaz and John Stones have been exceptional. Do you think that front line for West Ham can cause City issues?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, my thoughts on Antonio, but he's a very physical presence. He's got, he's got an eye for goal and he's banging form at the moment. I like Bowen actually as well. Declan Rice is playing out of his skin. So yeah, why not? I mean, they've got just as much. They've got to be respected from Manchester City, and I've said it before. Manchester City's got plenty of flaws in their game. The way they try and play out the back sometimes gets them in trouble. Ederson's not having the best of seasons. They are conceding goals, Manchester City, despite dominating play. So why not? I mean, I think West Ham just need to think about going for the game, not thinking about staying in the game, but actually going for the 3 points. And if they do that, they've got every chance of getting something.
I think if West Ham are going to push on and, try and come in that sort of 4th, 5th position, like they did last season, coming top 6, if they're looking to push on to the top 4, these are the kind of games where they need to be not necessarily winning. Obviously, that'll definitely help, but they need to not be losing these kind of games if they want to take the next step and bridge the gap to that top 4, which is where ultimately they want to be. And now, George, we come to our predictions. Obviously, for those of you that don't know, myself and George are having a weekly predictions thing throughout the season, and whoever wins has to buy the other a shirt of their choice. Currently, I am 8-4 up in proceedings, so George is staring down the barrel, almost out of it before December. So, mate, first one of the weekends, Manchester City versus West Ham. What are you going for?
Oh, God, mate. Well, whatever I say is going to be the opposite, isn't it, at the moment? Because I can't buy a win at the moment. But this is where you catch me out, because on live, I tend to be a bit bolder. But then I look back and I think, well, that's idiots.
Oh, it's just the pressure, mate.
Should go for City all day. I'm going to go Desmond Tutu. I'm going to go draw.
I'm going to go for a Manchester City home win. I do like West Ham. I think they're a very good side, but I think ultimately City have got that more quality. The fact they've had an extra day's recovery, they didn't have to travel, and West Ham have had to travel, not as much quality in that side, although there is great quality. I'm going to go for a Manchester City win. So moving on, George. Next one then. The lunchtime kickoff tomorrow. Then we've got Arsenal taking on Eddie Howe's Newcastle. Arsenal sitting in 5th place, 3 points off the top 4. Obviously brought back down to earth with a resounding 4-0 defeat at Anfield at the weekend. But they've got 3 wins in the last 5. That mini resurgence was ended by Liverpool. What have you made of them so far, George, under Mikel Arteta, since the 3 defeats on the spin at the start of the season? You've been impressed with how they've kind of worked their way back up the table? Because I certainly wouldn't have thought, given their start to the season, that they'd be 5th and only 3 points off the top 4 at this stage. Yeah,
fair play. I mean, they have bounced back and got some sort of form going. Smith Rowe's playing a very central role in that resurgence. They're still just very iffy, though, aren't they? I mean, they're in a fantastic position considering what they have been in the last couple of years. So you have to give credit to Arteta there. But I mean, again, it's similar to Manchester United, isn't it? I look back and think, well, but surely Arsenal's expectations have to be higher, and their squad's just still not good enough for me to maintain that consistency over a course of a season. So I don't expect them to get top 4 in the end of it. But Arteta's showing some good signs of resilience. But I think it showed the drop in class when they came up against Liverpool just showed that it was just men against boys out there. They stayed competitive for a fair bit of the first half, but then the second half they just Liverpool were walking the goals in. So if it wasn't for Ramsdale, it would have been even more. So
I think,
yeah.
No, I was going to say, I think it doesn't matter how well Arsenal have done recently, they put a great run together. It's against teams that they should be beating. Okay, the win away at Leicester, perhaps you'd say that's not a game you'd have them down to win, and they did play very well. But the others are all kind of results you'd expect them to pick up. And yet, with Arsenal, when it comes to playing the big teams, it's the same. It seems to be the same story. The sides that they need to be beating to get themselves up the table and competing for those European places and stuff, ultimately they aren't really picking up the results, Leicester aside. And then, as I said, Liverpool just went to show how far off they are being a top side and challenging for that 4th spot. I know they're only 3 points off at the moment, but I don't expect them to be challenging, come the end of the season. I think they should get back into Europe this season, certainly, and having no midweek football is definitely going to help them. But George, obviously, it's important that they get Aubameyang firing. He's kind of been a bit hit and miss this season. I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans on Twitter, saying that he's a passenger too often in games. I mean, what do you make of him?
I'm a big fan of Aubameyang. I think he's one of the players that Arsenal should keep. I mean, I don't know how old he is now. I think he is getting on a bit. But if you're talking about quality, I mean, yes, he's had a huge dip in form, but I don't think you can solely blame it on him, because if you're going to talk about service, I mean, where is the service coming from in that Arsenal team other than Smith Rowe, really?
Maybe Saka.
Yeah, Saka, Smith Rowe. But there's, you're still asking a lot. And I think Aubameyang's a type of player, I don't think necessarily captain material, but he's one of those players that's been at the very top level. And at least having him as part of your squad to build and to, if you're going to get out of the deadwood, I don't think Aubameyang's one of those players for me just yet. But they're just, they still need strength in every position, including up front.
I think he's one of those that you want him in the team for his finishing ability and the fact he'll score goals. But if he's not doing that, he's a passenger because he doesn't offer much else. He's not tracking back. He's not running for the team, etc. So if he's not scoring goals, then he doesn't really offer anything to the side. So it can be, a bit of a conundrum. But obviously, Arsenal have improved a lot since the start of the season under Arteta to be where they are now. But as we've both said, I think they will ultimately end up falling short of that top 4, definitely. And they'll be in and around the hunt for sort of 5th place down to around 8th, I reckon, with a number of other teams. But George, moving on to Newcastle, obviously now propping up the foot of the Premier League table, with Norwich getting a win last time out through Dean Smith, first game in charge. Newcastle are now 2 points adrift at the bottom, and they're now 5 points from safety already. No wins in the last 5. George, that 3-3 draw against Brentford was really costly, wasn't it, in the end, that they couldn't win that game, given the fact that other teams in and around them were able to pick up the points. And Eddie Howe's got a massive job on his hands now, hasn't he?
I mean, the whole world of football was just so excited of the takeover. And the actual thing that's most important is what's happening on the pitch is just totally people forgotten about. And so have the players. I think they've got carried away. The staff have got carried away. The owners have got carried away. They're 5 points from safety. They might go down with this takeover. And it's looking very, very likely because they are, other than I would say Watford and Norwich, the worst team performance-wise. I mean, there's just no football there whatsoever. It's awful to watch. It's sporadic. They actually managed to score quite a few goals last weekend, but still conceded 3 against Brentford.
That's their biggest. That's their biggest problem. Like, actually going forward, even under Steve Bruce, they were scoring quite a lot of goals. Defensively, shocking. I know Howe's not been there that long and he's not going to fix the defence instantly, but the amount of goals Newcastle let in, you're going to struggle to win any football matches.
Yeah. And Eddie Howe will definitely give them a boost because I rate him so highly. I think he's an amazing manager, amazing coach, very calm. And, if the worst case does happen and they keep him, I think, he's more than capable of getting that team back into the Premier League first time around, but they've got he's got a huge job on his hands, and I don't think it's going to be such an overnight fix. But last weekend we saw a lot of managers come in for their first game, and people were not expecting them to get results, and they both won. Steven Gerrard and who was it?
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith. So yeah, again, when you come to my prediction, I don't know what to say.
But yeah, no, Newcastle desperately need to start picking up points. I think they're the only side in all the English divisions to not have a win. And I think they might also be the only side in the top 5 European leagues that haven't won a game this season. I mean, it's quite remarkable to get to virtually December and have no wins on the board in the league. It's a massive job for Eddie Howe, and they need to start picking up wins somewhere, because the longer it goes on, then the more and more inevitable relegation is going to be. And already 5 points adrift of safety. I mean, if that starts edging towards 10, you're in big trouble. But yeah, George, we head to the predictions now. Arsenal hosting Newcastle at the Emirates, lunchtime kickoff. Surely only one result here.
Yeah, you'd say that, wouldn't you? Yeah, but we've seen Arsenal. I just don't trust Arsenal, and they've had a few.
Yeah, but surely you don't think Newcastle are going to win?
No, maybe not win, but I think Eddie Howe, him being in his first game, he'll demand a lot from the players. Arsenal and Newcastle have had a few run-ins, home and away, with results when they've been, again, in a similar position where Arsenal have been bound to win and haven't. Well, mate, I'm already 8-4 down, so it can't get any worse. I'm going to go draw.
I'm going to play safe. I've got a cushion I've got a lead in the pocket. So yeah, I'm going to go for an Arsenal win at the Emirates. I think it's Newcastle's so poor. Arsenal should have more than enough to see them off, but as you say, you never know. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Arsenal win. George, moving on to another one of the title contenders, then Liverpool. They host Southampton 3:00 Saturday afternoon at Anfield. They've kind of, after that blip with the draw against Brighton, lost to West Ham. They got back to winning ways last weekend, and this should be a bit of a formality against Southampton at Anfield, shouldn't it?
Yeah, well, we definitely don't need to spend long on this one for a prediction. I'm going banker home win. Backed Southampton a few times in the last few weeks, and they've let me down. I think, again, similar to Newcastle, they tend to score quite a few goals. Ward-Prowse, again, being one of those central figures, but they do concede an awful lot as well. And they've slightly dipped in form recently. I think they lost to Norwich, didn't they?
Yeah, last time out.
So, I mean, I don't think many people were seeing that coming, but they've just got, a last-minute equaliser against Newcastle. We're lucky to get away with that one away from home. So, yeah, for me, Liverpool are going to be far too strong.
Yeah, and it's important that Liverpool, George, stay in touch with the top two at the moment. Don't let a gap too big appear. So they really need to be winning games like this, don't they?
Oh yeah, and I think they'll be more hungry for the league than they have been in previous years. Obviously, they've always got a shout in the Champions League because of the whole thing at Anfield, which again was rocking last night. I mean, Thiago's goal was outrageous. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. I've watched it about 10 times, and
the techers are unreal.
Yeah, that'll be straight on Soccer AM on Saturday. So, yeah, I can't see anything other than Liverpool win. I think they've just got far too much, and even if it's frustrating, I think eventually they'll get through and they'll open the floodgates. Yeah,
100%. I agree. I think that's an easy two home wins. Then Liverpool looking very good, and they can't afford to let that gap increase too much because, as we've touched on, it's going to be fine margins this year, and you can't afford to be slipping up in games at home that you should be winning. So, yeah, a couple of home wins there. Liverpool, Southampton should be fairly straightforward. George, moving on now, we're going to sort of fire through these a little bit more quick fire now, seeing as they're kind of smaller teams. Norwich versus Wolves. Obviously, Dean Smith, first game in charge last time out, 2-1 win against Southampton. Really important for Norwich City there. Can he do it again? I mean, Norwich are now only 3 points from safety, and having myself definitely, and you as well, said they're a dead cert, they're already relegated. So now they're only 3 points from safety. They're back-to-back wins in the league. I mean, they're not really a dead cert for relegation, are they?
Well, they're not dead cert for relegation, but I think people are getting carried away with just one result. I think eventually the bubble will burst with the new manager coming in, and just like the Newcastle situation, eventually you've got to look on the pitch and think, have we got enough quality to stay in the Premier League? And for me, the answer is no. I don't think their squad is good enough. Yes, they've got Pukki, who seems to be in form at the moment, scoring goals, but it's not enough for me. I look around the pitch, and I'm not just referring to the Chelsea game, because you can lose games like that, but they just don't seem to have a good enough side. And we've always said it, and a lot of neutrals say it, too good for the Championship, not good enough for the Premier League. And I think eventually they will end up in that bottom three, because I can't see anyone worse than them, other than maybe Newcastle or Watford. So for me, I think Wolves need to be winning this game, and should do.
And on Norwich, how not good is it to see Billy Gilmore back in the lineup? Seems that Dean Smith's going to use him. Obviously, wasn't really used by Daniel Farke, and I think he put in a man of the match performance last time out against Southampton. So from a Chelsea perspective, it's going to be good to see Billy Gilmore getting more Premier League minutes, which is exactly what the point of that loan was.
Mate, he's quality. He's absolute quality. And I've watched a few of the Scotland games just because he's playing, and he commands it. For someone of his age, okay, it's Scotland, but they're usually up against teams that are better than them, and he controls that midfield. So calm on the ball, likes to go forward, and he's not just one of these square pass men. He's got a touch about him. He's got a presence about him, an aggression that I like, and it's only a positive for Chelsea. But yeah, we need to see him play more minutes. But if they're going to have any chance, he definitely needs to be featuring more.
Yeah, no, 100%. And George, moving on to Wolves briefly, sitting in 6th place, three wins and a draw in the last 5. They're only 4 points off the top 4, considering they also lost their first 3 games. I mean, Bruno Lager, who I think was a former Benfica manager, kind of gone very under the radar with Wolves. Raul Jimenez back amongst the goals, which is great to see after that injury. They're doing really well at the moment, aren't they?
They're the surprise package of the season, because you could say West Ham, but they had quite a good season last season. Nuno must be kicking himself now to take the game. I mean, he probably doesn't regret it, because Spurs is a bigger club than Wolves.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
My goodness, he must be looking back now thinking, I had such a good team there, and I left it to try something, and now it's gone sour. But Wolves are playing. They're playing some really good football, and I like the combination of the two up top. I think they're really exciting to watch. Exciting news with Jimenez and I keep forgetting his name.
I think it's Juan
or something, but something like that.
But then even with the quality they've got with the likes of Podence and Neto as well in those areas, Ruben Neves in midfield. I mean, any weakness you probably say is at the back. I don't think the back line's that great, but they're a solid outfit, aren't they? So yeah, I mean, it's great to see them doing well again. This should be, I mean, Norwich hosting Wolves, so it's at Carrow Road. I mean, I'm going to go for an away win. It should be a Wolves win for me. I can't see Norwich beating a side of Wolves' quality.
No, I think it'll be tight. I think the Carrow Road will be rocking, but I think Wolves should have too much, but it'll be a tight win. And
George, moving on to this is actually one of the better games this weekend. I've got to be honest. Crystal Palace hosting Aston Villa. Obviously, last time out, Palace drawing 3-3 away at Burnley, probably a game they should have won. And obviously, Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa getting a win against Brighton in his first game at Villa Park. Great to see the emotion from Gerrard on the touchline. I think he's relishing being back in the Premier League. This is a really tough one to call at Selhurst Park. We've got Crystal Palace sitting in 10th, and we've got Aston Villa sitting in 15th with 3 points separating them. How do you see this one going? This is a really tough one to call.
Yeah, really tough. But the reason why I'm going to go for the team I'm going for is just how the last, literally going by last week's games, which was Crystal Palace in a strong position and ending up drawing, and actually Villa not playing particularly well, but getting the job done right at the end, scoring twice. So for me, I think Villa have got a bit of momentum going into this, and it always helps the new manager coming in with the new ideas and that big kind of bollocks saying, things change now. It's all well and good saying that and then not winning the game, but when they did actually win, I think they'll start to buy into what Steven Gerrard's trying to do. And I'm not saying Palace are now going to start to slide downwards, but that result would have killed them, considering that they should be winning that football match.
Yeah, they should have won that match. It was poor.
And they've done it a few times this season. I remember at Selhurst Park, I can't remember who it was against now. It's killing me. But they conceded a last-minute equaliser.
It's against Brighton. There was a Neil Maupay chip,
They've done it a few times, and I just think they just lapse a little bit of concentration. And yes, they've had an incredible season, and they will be at home. But I'm going to go for the away win. I think Stevie G is going to get his win and keep the momentum going at Villa.
To be honest, I have to agree with you, mate. This is a tough one to call, but I just think that Villa will be on the up now. Stevie G, obviously, with that win, I think he's going to come in and he's going to make a big difference to them. And as you say, Palace seem to be lapses of concentration creeping in games that they should easily be seeing out. They've definitely got the quality to be winning a lot more matches than they do. Obviously, should have beaten Burnley, should have beaten Arsenal, should have beaten Brighton. Last minute goals just nipping in. I'm not, as you say, they're not going to tumble down, but you're thinking it's a little bit of a worrying trend.
Yeah,
points being dropped very late on. But yeah, no, I think Aston Villa have got a touch more quality than Palace. Obviously, it'd be great to see Conor Gallagher again. He's done really well this season. Hopefully, he could put in a good performance. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Stevie G is going to make it 2 wins from 2, and Villa are going to continue to climb up the table. George, moving on. Not a great game, this one. Brighton host Leeds on the 5:30 kickoff. Brighton currently sitting 9th in the table, level on points with Manchester United. No wins in the last 5, though, for them. So that's a little bit concerning. And they host the Leeds side, who sit 2 points above the drop zone in 17th place with only 1 win in the last 5. 2 teams that at the moment are bang out of form.
Yeah, I think something has to give here. I can't envisage another draw for these sides or another defeat. There's got to be, I think one of them's going to get the 3 points, in my opinion. And I think that will be Brighton, just because I think the quality of football that they've shown. I think they've been a bit unlucky. They've had a few tough games as well. It was a toss-up for me today between a draw, and it's going to be difficult for them to get out. But I just think both of them, without wins in 4 or 5 games, I think it's something's got to push. And I know that the importance for both sides is that they're going to go into this thinking these are the games you must win. So one of them is going to get through. And I think from the evidence I've seen so far this season, it can only be Brighton for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brighton will be disappointed with the fact that they chucked away a point at Villa in the last 10 minutes, letting in 2 goals. Obviously done well at Anfield to come back from 2 down. But yeah, they've got to start picking up some wins now, because they started the season really well, but then no wins in the last 5 is not good. Leeds, I feel, really are in that second season syndrome. I know they beat Norwich, but they're really struggling to pick results up. And they're just lucky that at the moment there's kind of 3 teams playing worse than them. But I do really worry for their safety, because they're not playing anywhere near as well as they did last season. And Bielsa's got some big issues to sort out. But yeah, I agree, mate. I think something's got to give. You're right. And I'm going to be going with a Brighton home win as well. So a pair of home wins there on the 5:30 kickoff. George, last 3 fixtures to rattle through. Brentford host Everton Sunday lunchtime, 2 o'clock kickoff. This is another tough one to call. Brentford have not been in the best of form. They sit 14th in the table. No wins in their last 5. The only point they've picked up in the last 15 was the one they got against Newcastle last weekend. Everton only sit 2 points ahead of them in 11th, and they've had no wins in their last 5, just a solitary draw. Again, this is another 2 teams that are bang out of form. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, this is a really tough one, because I think Brentford have really struggled after that initial first couple of games where there was a big hype. They have dropped off, and I don't know whether they'll probably take the point away at Newcastle just because of the backing and the hype that was going on at the time. But they'll be disappointed they scored 3 away from home and didn't come away with 3 points. But again, I've seen glimpses of Everton where they've been really, really sharp.
They've been terrible recently.
But then literally, I can't talk about moments of lapses of concentration from Palace. I mean, Everton are the worst at this. I mean, they have spells that are just shocking. I mean, that one against Watford, I've never seen anything like it.
Dreadful. So, Benitez is in big trouble, isn't he? Well, he's got the pressure's on because they started quite well. Mate, they haven't won a game. They've had one point out of their last 15, I think. The fans are going to... He wasn't a popular opinion anyway. Yeah, it's 1 point in their last 15, out of the last 15. 4 defeats and 1 draw. The fans are going to start getting on his back. He needs to turn this round. And it's like... I wouldn't be surprised if he could be gone by January if this form doesn't pick up.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think his name's on the chopping block already. I think it's very difficult to turn it around. This is one of the hardest ones to predict because you look at the individual quality and you'd say, no doubt Everton, with Pickford in goal, he can have a blinder. You've got players all around the pitch that can make a difference. But I'm gonna go Brentford home win. I think like you said, I think Rafa's in real big trouble. And
He's in trouble.
Despite Everton having the better squad and the better team and individual players, I think Brentford are going to do them.
Mate, I'm going to be slightly more. I'm going to probably sit on the fence, play it. So I'm going to go for a draw on this one.
Yeah,
I don't think Brentford have probably got enough quality to get the win, but I don't think Everton do either. So, yeah, I think they're just going to cancel each other out. If it was at Goodison, I probably would have gone for a home win. But yeah, the fact it's not, I'm going to go for a draw in that one. Right, let's just rattle through these last couple now, mate, to wrap up.
Yeah.
Very quickly, Leicester hosting Watford. Obviously, Watford with a resounding 4-1 win against Manchester United last time out. Leicester, obviously, Chelsea dismantled them. Again, Leicester struggling, only 15 points from the first 12 games. And they're only 2 points ahead of Watford. Leicester sit 12th, Watford 16th. Watford 2 wins in the last 5, same as Leicester. I mean, this should be a fairly straightforward home win, George, but this is quite a tough one to predict. Obviously, Leicester playing Europa League football Thursday. Yes, they are at home. This is a tough one, isn't it, really? When it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be, but it is a tough one because Watford will be on a massive high. I mean, it was more of the circumstance of playing a dread. I think anyone would have turned over United that day, so can't read too much into that. As good as Watford were, United were shocking. And, let's be fair, Leicester were playing the European champions, so you can get rolled over quite easily if you're not on it. Mate, tough.
But they've been poor this season, Leicester. They've really struggled.
They have been poor, and again, the pressure's mounting on Brendan Rodgers, especially with all the hype around Manchester United and the permanent manager. Is he in the mix? Is he not? Is he downplaying it? I don't know.
This should be a home win.
Should be. I'm gonna
go for it. Obviously, Ranieri returning to Leicester, that emotional reunion, I suppose, after winning the league. I'm going to go for a home win. Leicester need to start picking points up.
Yeah, I'll go draw, mate. I'll go draw.
Going to go draw. Yeah. Fair. Okay, and then last one, just to quickly round off, we've got Burnley hosting Tottenham at Turf Moor. I mean, Spurs obviously losing to the team in 5th place in the Slovenian league tonight in the Europa Conference League, which is fantastic to see. So they had to Turf Moor, taking on Burnley. Burnley in the bottom 3, 2 points from safety in 18th. Tottenham actually in 7th at the moment. George, this is another tough one to call, really, isn't it?
Yeah, because you think Conte, the man that Tottenham need, and then they go and perform a performance like that tonight. It just sometimes it doesn't matter how good the manager is. The Tottenham just aren't good enough. Burnley will be tough to beat. Don't know, mate. Another tough one to call. I'm gonna back Spurs to kind of come back from this. Conte will demand more in the league. I'm going to go for a narrow away win, but it's being nice to them because really I could see this easily slipping up again.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think just an away win. I think Conte's starting to implement his ideas. They're very poor against Leeds in the first half last weekend, but much improved in the second half to pick the win up. And I think we'll probably see another improvement again this weekend. Burnley, for me, just don't quite have the quality. Yes, they'll be physical, but I think Spurs have got the players and the skill level required to kind of break that down. So, yeah, just a narrow away win on that one. But, yeah, guys, that concludes the Premier League preview show. Obviously, we haven't included Chelsea against Manchester United. We will be doing a separate stream on that tomorrow afternoon. So stay tuned for details. We'll be going through a lot of stuff, predicted lineup, etc. So make sure you stay tuned for that, guys. As always, if you tuned in live, thanks for joining us. If you're going to watch this back, we really appreciate the support. Make sure you smash a like on the video. It does help us out with the YouTube algorithm. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, just click that button. It takes seconds. And it really helps us out. And we appreciate all the support. But yeah, guys, it's going to be another great weekend of Premier League football. So thanks for joining us. And we'll catch you again soon.